Welcome to the Squad Games Podcast. Squad Games Podcast.
Maybe this is a thing. Let's discuss all the euphemisms that are code for fuck you in the face that are sound on the surface nice. Like
Bless
buddy,
you.
For sure. Yeah, bless your heart.
Yeah, bless your heart. There it is.
That's Southern go fuck yourself.
That's Southern go fuck yourself.
I learned that
my
at
dad.
Worlds.
My dad's from the South. That's about as South as I get. I did visit Atlanta for like 35 minutes this year before I made it to Nova.
It's okay. You don't need to like qualify to be Southern.
Yeah, you just it's okay. Pal.
Simmer down, sport.
Pal might be S tier. Fuck yourself. Hey pal, like that might be the real like strong go-to. Speaking of which, real quick, you've been flipped off by random people in public before, right?
Of course.
Not in
Okay.
I think we've all
It
driven.
happens. Does it
Yeah.
bother you at
Yeah.
all? Like while driving, a random person looks over and flips you off. Does it phase you at all?
It has in the past, and I started doing the live long and prosper
That's
to
right.
stop
you told me
myself from raging. Yeah.
that. I think that's a
Typically-
fantastic response, by the way.
Yeah. Typically, I just pray in my area it doesn't turn to gang signs. As long as it stays the middle finger, I'm happy. Because then it goes.
Okay, so
That is true. I've walked the streets of Baltimore before. I have.
That's true. You it almost cost you your life. That's all.
It did, yeah.
At KTO. But yeah, so it doesn't bother me at all. Middle finger, I just like it makes me laugh sometimes. I'm like, okay, pal. Anyways, but the other day I was driving down the road, and this random guy was on the street, didn't know I existed. He turned over to look at me, and when we made eye contact, and he's just now realizing I exist, there is nothing happened between us. No context or anything. And he just looks over and gives me a strong thumbs down. It broke my soul. I wanted to
What the
fight him
hell?
so bad. Like, if he'd flipped me off, it would have been nothing. He gave me a thumbs down. I was like, we're going to fight, pal. Like, that's it. You don't thumbs down a dude randomly in public. Yeah. All right. Yeah. All right, buddy. We're going to go. But yeah, so I just wanted to share that. I don't know if you guys would have been affected the same, but that's not common. Like, the middle fingers and flipping people off all the time. It's so innocuous now. It means nothing. But a random thumbs down from a stranger, woo boy, that hit me hard.
All right. I have one that instantly creates rage for me.
Okay.
And will make me the most passive aggressive person in the world. It's if I'm driving and somebody someone speeds up behind me and flashes their lights at me, as in like, hey, get out of the way. I will instantly, whatever speed I'm going, if I'm going 60, we're smacking straight down to like 20.
Oh, you're one of those guys.
I love that.
If you told me to get out of the way when I'm going a reasonable speed, because like I speed already. And it's just like, if you're like, hey buddy, get out of the fucking way. I'm like, no. I'm going to make sure to box you in next to a tractor and trailer, and we're going to go 40 down to 60.
I don't have any like super triggers except for like people cutting me off, but I think that's like a normal response
Yeah, because it's dangerous, you know?
Yeah.
where you like start flipping, especially when my son's in the car.
Oh, yeah.
That makes me like instantly like rageful. But you know, you have to remember I used to work at Six Flags and I used to be Aquaman, and people used to come up and try to make fun of me because, you know, I'm the king of Atlantis and people think that Aquaman is dumb. So they say a lot of stuff to me, and you know, I'm just like, okay, land dweller, you can keep thinking that, you know, stuff like that. Just come up with random nonsense that you say back.
I'm all for if people want to make fun of me. Like, I can take that like a champ. But it's like Jimmy said, if like people just do like the dumbest little things, you know, sometimes it's just like, all right, fine, I'll roll up the sleeves, we're going to fight.
Yeah. I think what it is you have yourself mentally prepared for the normal stuff, right? Like being called a bag of dicks. Like, I'm prepared for
Yep.
that. If people say that in public, I'm like, I've already anticipated how I'm not going to care, how I'm going to respond with nonchalance. But if someone surprises you, if they come in with some weird thing, yeah, it's like, well, like, I'm not ready for that. Like, I wasn't like geared up to defend against that mentally. So it really can catch you off guard sometimes.
If anyone has any kind of like instant triggers, go ahead and put it in our Discord, which is linked in the show notes. But yeah, welcome to the Squad Games podcast.
Maybe it's playing
Yeah.
Felgor.
Yeah, Felgor could be.
Yeah.
I mean, playing
Felgor could be a trigger.
I think Felgor, Colts, and
Commandos.
I don't think Commandos. I think Felgor, Colts, and Pathfinders are all typically the hey, my guy, let's have fun. You know, I think those are the kill team versions of hey, we're gonna have a good time. Fuck you.
Damn.
I think it depends on the season, right? Because like back in the day, it was if you sat across the table from novitiates, Vet Guard, or Pathfinders.
Agreed.
Like, okay, buddy, you just want to shoot me off a planet bowling ball? That's fine.
I still think Commandos are. They're like, they're a really, really strong team, but they're still players who don't play them as efficiently as they could, right? So like when you sit down from a Commandos player, you're not like, oh God, I'm playing Adrian, you know?
Right.
So like you might be like, I don't know this guy. Is he any good? You know, but you instantly sit down and you're fighting a Pathfinder player and you're like, all right, I'm going to have a smile on my face as you roll me.
So I don't know. I guess I would give a little pushback on that because very few people that I've faced with Pathfinders have offered any resistance. Now, you have to be so good with Pathfinders, you know, the average player who's like, oh, hey, and this is, I think with Pathfinders, the same thing that we see with a lot of like Commandos players. People join the meta, they're starting to go to tournaments, and they hear, oh, this team is really good. So I'm going to learn the game with this really good team.
Agreed, yeah.
And then it's like, oh, okay, well, let me teach you the game. And when you pick up the pieces when you're done, you'll get better from it. Mm-hmm. But like, if you play Adrian with Commandos, that's not playing Commandos. That's playing a great player with Commandos. Agreed. The same thing if you play like, you know, Travis with Pathfinders or John Reese with Pathfinders. They're going to punish you with Pathfinders or try their best to do so. But the average person who's like, I've played 8 games and I really want to get, you know, you can still have a fun game. Like if you're not a top player, it's not going to be oppressive.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, I mostly say Pathfinders because it's a meme on this podcast now.
And it should stay so. That's true.
How much I hate them. But the majority of Pathfinder players, you know, are it's not the Pathfinder players, it's the team. Like
the abilities.
Typically when you sit down, you're like, okay, I'm not going to hold anything back because if I hold anything back, you're going to beat me. Right. So like, there's like certain teams that when you play, you can take the kids' gloves off a couple times, like Intercession and a few other teams currently. Intercession, maybe not so much when they first released, but Colts are the same way. Like when you sit down and you play against a Colts player, you're like, shit, I have to play like my heart out. And if I don't, I'm going to lose just because of how good the team is.
Yeah, if you play someone who's bringing Warp Coven, you're like, you may not even put all your models on the board. You just be like, all right, we're good. I got most of them down there.
If I'm playing Orion or you and you guys are, because you guys both main or started off maining Warp Coven. If you guys bring them, I'm bringing all my models.
No, if you want to not bring all your models, that's okay, Dakotah. We'll let you. If you want to bring leave the spotter at home, all right. You maybe give us a handicap. It's okay. We're not that good.
I'll take 10 operatives and then go shoot myself in the go
not 12 or 14.
14.
He'll take the airstrikes. All right, let's do that.
Yeah.
Easy.
Now Warp Coven might win. All right.
Yeah.
Listen, man, there wasn't an unbeatable matchup. Like the thing with Vetguard is it hasn't changed in the entirety of the game.
I know.
And Warp Coven's actually only gotten a little bit better.
They have. They sure have. In fact,
every tournament
I've beat him before.
I want to bring him back every tournament. Like Dakotah talks me out of it. He's like, "Don't do it, Jimmy. Don't bring the Dusty Boys." I'm like, "But
also Jimmy's like, oh man, I really want to bring Custodes." And I'm like, Jimmy, shut the fuck up. Don't do it. And then like the one time he didn't consult me, he went out to Kill Team Open and won the whole thing. So maybe you should just stop taking advice from me because I obviously don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, Jimmy.
Oh. Yeah, you're the only one holding Warp Coven back, Jimmy.
oh man, I got to do it. I got to do it, guys. I'll see you in Dallas with Dusty Boys. Done.
Look, man, I'll go with Dusty Boys too. It's fine, and we can have
a gentleman's agreement.
Gentlemen's agreement. Only Zangors with pistols.
Oh, dang it. You took it too far. I was so ready to just only bring... I don't know if I can do Zangors with pistols.
What did you want to bring?
I guess I'll bring the worst models possible. I don't know. We'll see.
Just rubric marines, no sorcerers.
Yeah, no sorcerers.
I can't remember. Does the Zangor have a leader in the team or no? It's
No,
only
you got to bring one sorcerer.
Okay.
You have to bring one.
Okay. Dang.
One sorcerer, and then what would that be? 10 Zangors?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's 11 model team. Yeah,
that might
11 activations
honestly,
is not terrible.
That might be a monkey wrench to a lot of teams. I don't know.
it's
I've
decent
played
on
before.
Into the Dark. Yeah, it's a decent on Into the Dark.
Yeah, I think
Ruined.
it's decent on open. I don't know. That's
They just-
I won my pod at not LVO, Nova. Last time I played them with Warp Coven, I was playing against Novitiates. Leander Garrett was running them, and I just completely switched into one sorcerer, nothing but goats, for like my second match against them, and it just completely decimated it.
it's amazing.
It was like the Novitiates had no chance.
I hate to root for a story where one of the Garrett boys is killed because they're such good kids. Like it's hard to hear them lose. But that's good. Like it's awesome to hear a Warp Coven victory against a good player. That's
Yeah.
Well, look, after that, he got invited to the team, so it worked out in the end.
Hey,
Okay.
that's a cool way to join a team.
Nice hazing.
That's so. I was talking to someone else. I wanted to really at some point. I want to be able to focus on the benefits of losing a kill team.
Yeah,
'Cause-
I think that's a good idea. You guys,
Yeah, like that's a great example right there. Was it Leander or Liam? Which one did you say?
Leander.
Leander. So
They
Leander,
both did lose to my Warp Coven at that event, but
so they both lost, and then they both joined Plasma Spam because of that.
yeah, we invited the Garretts because we had such a good time with them at Nova that weekend because we played them so much because we played them in the team tournament and we played them in the grand tournament. So after that, we're just like, man, we hang out with you guys enough. We might as well just invite you to the team.
Cool.
nice.
That sure makes sense. But yeah, so I was just reflecting myself, and there are so many examples that I can think of amazing things that came from losing. And I think that really gets overlooked because, like, when you play competitively, there's such a big part of you that just wants to win. Like, you want to take down the event, you want to do the best you can. And there's been some real huge things that I've personally gained from actual losses versus winning is like, okay, it's fun to win. But I feel like it really gets overlooked. Like if you really want to look holistically at the entire competitive scene, the tournaments, the community, I feel like there should be more focus on some of the benefits of actually, I guess, specifically losing with class. Because you can lose like an asshole and gain nothing.
It's true. I think we've all seen it.
Yeah. So I don't know if tonight's the night for that, but
Yeah, we can
it was
definitely touch.
interesting to hear that.
We can definitely talk about that.
Should.
I'll start off. So, some of my best, like for me, the biggest thing about losing is that's the best opportunity for learning and growth, right? I lost a lot at KTO. I lost a lot on day 2 at Nova, literally every game. But, you know, those were some of my favorite games that I played. I lost to True in the tiebreaker. I lost to Plasma Spam's Nick Craven, and I lost to Can You Roll a Crit? And like the first day, I didn't feel like I learned anything or I didn't get any better. I was just playing at like top tier. And then in that same tournament, once I started losing, I was like, oh, I can fix this. Oh, I can do this. Oh, I can do that. But before, it's just like, oh, I did everything perfectly. There's nothing for me to be better at. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, Orion,
Yeah.
are there any times that you find that losing is extremely beneficial for yourself at all?
I love losing.
Amazing.
It's going to be a very controversial statement because every time I am losing, it looks like I'm trying my damnedest to win. Because typically when I am in a losing position, I try to make sure that I'm like, it like hones me in. I'm like, oh shit, I need to do every little thing to scrape by to, maybe tie. And when I do lose, I'm like, I love to reflect on what I did wrong, what I could have done better, what I should have done better. And it's something I think about for like weeks on end. Not like agonizing over it, but like, okay, I have to remember not to make that mistake again. And like you said, I don't get that when I win a lot. I'm like, okay, I made this one mistake where I got blasted by 3 guys, but I won this game. I don't think about it that much when opposed to a game where I got my guys blasted, by 3 of them, and I lost that game. Yeah, that game I'll think, oh man, I got to make sure to space everything out. So it's one of those things where the losses, those mistakes stick with you a lot more than the same mistake in a game that you won. And I think overall, those are the mistakes when you lose that make you a better player. So losing is very important to me. I think it's been part of my general growth in this game entirely. Like if I just won all the time, it just wouldn't be great, because I think eventually I'd lose horribly to somebody for something I wasn't prepared for.
Fair.
So it's,
or you're just in a meta that you're just dominant. And like, I think that's another reason why it's important to travel.
That's what I was about to go to. Yeah.
Go for it.
It's like, if you're winning all the time in like your local scene, you're not learning anything because maybe you're just the best player there, or everybody's not up to par. And then you go to an actual event where a lot of players are coming to compete at the same level that you're at, if not better. And then you just get your shit mixed and you're just like, oh, I don't know. The dice sucked this tournament. This just wasn't my tournament. In reality, you just didn't learn anything from all your previous experience because you were just stomping people and not winning, or not thinking about what you could do better.
True.
Absolutely. That's a huge thing. Just the different cultures, different metas, different groups is all really important. So I have 2 specific stories I wanted to share. One was Worlds, which was generic, but it started off with, I won my first few games and I was feeling on top of the world. It was fantastic. And then I lost every single game the rest of the event. Ooh. And there were some I was like, it's a bad matchup. There were some it was like I got myself in the best position possible and I lost every single initiative roll, or like I'd have I'm gonna roll for a 2-up, roll a 1. It was just a series of just losses. And it was very humbling because I started off feeling pretty good about myself. And then you have to embrace this side of hey, not only do sometimes you lose, but sometimes you got to be humble. Sometimes you got to go through and be like, you're not going to do great at this one. I actually ended up, they placed me dead last for overall standings for Worlds. So that's a lot of humble pie to eat right there, to be dead fucking last of everyone.
Hey, listen, buddy, I heard you last told me if I ever brought that up again, you were going to disown me.
Well, so
you brought it up this time.
Yeah, no, I'm willing to own it, right? I'm willing to own it. But the cool thing was that whole series of losses, number one, brought me where I met a lot of amazing players. And I remember at Worlds, I talked to you, Orion, and one of the things you told me that really stood out to me was the whole reason you play this game is just to actually make new friends and meet new people. And the game is almost secondary. And it was really cool. And that whole event was such an amazing experience because the people I played were incredible. And it was so fun to meet those new people. And it culminated. My very final game was against John Reese, which we've been at some events. We've talked. But it was our first time actually playing a game. And it was a great match. And he took it. He barely took it, and he took it. And I lost every single roll that mattered. And he played perfectly. I feel like there were some games where I felt frazzled and I was the matchup was really tough and I could have played it better. Like my game with Orion, I could have 100% played that better. I misplayed a lot, but the matchup was really tough to begin with. And I was trying to pull a rabbit out of the hat and didn't work out. But the last game with John Reese, I really felt I played a great game. I lost, but me and John Reese, we had a great match. It was one of my favorite matches. I think he said it was one of his favorite matches, and he joined Kel Team. I got a teammate for LVO and a friend out of this game, out of the series of losses that culminated with a loss to John Reese. And it's okay, so it wasn't fun to lose. But when you make friends and your life is improved by the quality of people you meet, what does that matter for who wins a game? It was, and then leading to Worlds, the last big event before Worlds was SoCal Open. And the only game I lost that entire event was to Jason Stanecki. Am I saying his last name right?
You are.
Okay, awesome. Fantastic. I just call him Jason. I haven't actually addressed him by his last name, so I don't call him Mr. Sinecki when we hang out. But I lost to him, and he ended up winning the entire event and ended up going to Worlds because of it. And I got a chance to meet and know this guy who was newer to the community from my area. And he's just an incredible guy. We got to spend a lot of time talking and hanging out. And he wouldn't have ever gone if I'd won that match with him. Like, if I hadn't lost to him, he wouldn't have gone to Worlds. We wouldn't have, like, so this is like a real thing. Like, he really got involved in the community. We became like friends. He's a great guy, and I got to know this person. None of it would have happened if I hadn't lost my game to him. And it's pretty amazing to think sometimes, like, these connections we get, like some of the strongest connections and the best experiences I have literally are tied to my losses. And that's pretty amazing to think about, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, that's how me and Jimmy met too. So, I mean, you and me met. So,
yeah, I think we drew, but like,
that's the best way.
That's I'll take that over it. Yeah.
Can I tell you guys the best story before we talk to Giacomo about his best experience? The best story ever was there's a guy who won best sportsmanship last year, Denver McShane. Denver lives and works in Las Vegas, and then we have a guy out here named Squid. And Squid and Denver had a running thing of like Squid loses a lot of games. Denver loses a lot of games. In fact, Denver has never won a game that I know of. And at least at any tournament that he's been to of mine. And they both have a thing where they're trying to win, but you know, they're 100% fine with losing. At that same tournament that me and Jimmy were at, Denver came out for it, and Squid and Denver got paired into each other, and he was playing Compendium Crute versus Vetguard. And Giacomo, do you remember what happened here?
Yeah.
You want to take it away?
No, you got to keep going
All
for
right.
it.
All right. So they ended up playing, and they brought it down to the wire, and everyone was waiting to see who won. And like we're all standing around the table, and none of us knew anything what was happening. Right? They're both very quiet. And then they both like looked up at us, and we're like, "Oh, who won?" And they're like, "Oh, it's a tie." And they like, and like, so the streak was broken for both of them, and like they both stopped their full loss streak, you know, and they both got a tie. It was amazing. It was a wonderful thing. Best tie story ever in my opinion.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, good times.
Giacomo, do you have a story?
I have an experience. So back when we were still young, Squad Games was new, and we didn't have as many butts to fill the spaces. I would jump in and play some of the games. And one of our first events ever, I had just taken Phobos. They were brand spanking new. Only had come out like, I don't know, like
that was our very first event.
Our very first one, yes. Mm-hmm. And so this story involves getting to learn the limits of what your team can and can't do so you can play better. Because we've already got the stories about meeting people from ties and losses. This one I played against my very first opponent, James Robinson, who's now one of our good friends here, friend of the pod, friend of the Squad Games. He's a great guy. And I'm playing against Death Guard Compendium. Sure, they can't move super fast, but they are so tanky that I got to learn exactly what Phobos can and can't do in that first day. I don't think I won a single match that time. Just completely losing to everything. And that every game I learned a little more about what the team can and can't do. So, you know, there's the benefit of losing too, is learning from your mistakes. Kind of like Orion mentioned earlier, but also understanding what this team does, because it'll be different from some other playstyle you might be used to. And you can figure out what you end up liking, you know, to get a better experience overall for you when you play games.
Absolutely. I want to go over a little bit more. I also don't think we introduced Orion and Jimmy. They're both friends of the podcast, been on many times.
Yes, they have.
Sorry,
very rude of you.
I know.
Goodness.
Yeah, I was seething. You know, that was like a "hey, buddy" moment.
Yeah.
Okay, guy.
I demand the red carpet treatment.
Okay, my friend. Another thing that I think we should talk about in the same way, in the same aspect, is what are kind of like the biggest lessons as competitors that we've learned, each of us has learned from our losses in specifically? So like, for instance, one of the things I've learned was I was playing against Pathfinder's player, and I thought I could block a barrier. I could put a barrier out. Austin, he's a very good Pathfinder's player, one of the best on the West Coast, if not the best on the West Coast. Put a barrier out, and he was able. And I thought I blocked. I put two of them out to try and block his grenade, and it didn't matter. And he was able to get around and all that kind of stuff. And he naded 7 guardsmen. First activation, first thing, killed 5. And I had to only in death and save another one. So in fact, he killed pretty much all 7. So I learned to space out. And I told myself I will never get caught by blast again, because I got caught by blast at KTO, at a few other places. And it was just like this recurring theme of ways that I was losing the game was being in blast range. So that's one thing. I have a couple more. Orion, do you have any hard lessons learned?
I wouldn't say it's a hard lesson, but one that I really beat into myself. So I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's a very cutthroat
Heck
industry.
Yeah. Hell yeah,
let
dude.
me tell you. But the losing scene and the how you win, how you lose, it's different over there. It's very cutthroat. It's very like, I'm great, you suck mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Don't believe in the heart of the cards, huh?
Yeah, well, and like, it's just one of those things. Like, I was never like a complete asshole in that game or anything, but just coming over to Warhammer, I had to learn how to like lose with grace. I think Jimmy mentioned it earlier, where it's just like, if your opponent's having a great time and you're sitting across from them for like 2 hours, you don't just like scoop up your shit. You don't just, stop rolling dice. Like, it doesn't matter. You win, GG's. Like, you play it out. You congratulate them when they're making good rolls. Even if you think this game is a loss, like, you still have to have a good time with your opponent. And that's something I learned through losing in this game. Because Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, if you see something you probably can't out, you just scoop up your cards, go to the next round. With this game, there's so much setup and there's so much time and effort put into just getting onto the table. You can't do that. You got to make sure both players are having a good time. So learning to, like, even if you're losing, lose with grace, respectability, high five your opponent every now and again, even if they killed your favorite model, you got to learn to laugh with it. And at the end of the day, you look at the score and it's like 2-20. You take that away and you just, you beat my ass, man. That sucks. That was really bad for me. But you know what? You had a great game. You did some good plays. GG's,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing I've taken away from it.
Oh, totally. I think that is kind of the core of all of it, right? Like, if someone beats you and you still make it a good experience for them, that's fantastic. I think it's really an obligation, if you become one of the better players in the game, if you're able to win a major, if you're able to do well, when someone does beat you, you got to get hyped for them. Like, you got to, or even if you're winning too, they make a really good roll, get hyped for them. Like, get excited when your opponent does well. In general, I think it's now we're transitioning a little bit to general sportsmanship, but it's too easy to always get salty when. Go ahead. You want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add a slight caveat there. Yeah. When you and I played in our game in the Worlds, mm-hmm. and you stunned all of my Hawks turn 1, mm-hmm. and I was like, "Dude, that's awesome! High five!" And you were extremely worried at that point. Because I was just congratulating you for doing a good job. You were worried because you thought you missed something.
Wow, what a mind game.
Oh my gosh, that's a fantastic point. Orion was so happy the whole game, it really made me rethink my entire life. I was like, maybe I should have gone to college. Maybe I should have, what did I do wrong? I was like, here's my equipment. He's like, fantastic. I'm like, don't be so happy.
He gave you a thumbs down.
Yeah, give me a thumbs down. Call me buddy. Come on.
Oh my God.
It's so funny. He was so excited with every good thing. It literally, because by the way, Orion is known. I've heard him say this. You won't argue with me on this. You're known for making a good match. like you make it a fun match. Like if you try to tell people like, oh, Ryan's like one of the best, he'll argue with you like, oh, no. We'll make it a fun game. Would you agree with that, Orion?
I mean,
well, I would disagree that, yeah, I'm not the best. I love hunting games away. Like,
but you like to make it a fun match.
Yeah, because I'm never going to like shark people on things. I know I want people to play their best possible game.
Yeah.
And again, I want to make sure no matter what, no matter who wins, we had a good time. Yeah.
And that's what's true, because like it was really like, it's hard to, because when you play most people, they really kind of stay in their kind of like reserved, like, and everything. I don't know. They're very competitive. And Orion was so positive. It really did throw me. I was like, oh my gosh, he wanted me to stun his guys. What happened? Like, and it didn't matter. He was going to come back and win anyways. It was fine. But it was so positive and it was so encouraging. It did throw me for a loop. It was interesting. So that is so funny. Like, but I think that needs to be more the norm. So we're not thrown by that. We're not surprised. We should be excited. We should get, whether we win or lose in the end, be excited when things go right. Like, be excited for your opponent. Like, it all adds to it. And that's part of like when you lose, if you can be gracious and positive for your opponent and like, shake hands and be excited for their win, that really helps you actually become friends, build connections, build relationships, all that stuff. Because everyone wants to win, right? We all want to win. We all want that dub. And when it doesn't happen, we're bummed. So when someone gets the win against you and you lose, you're competitive, you're doing well, you're in a tournament, you get the loss, instead of focusing on like, oh man, this was terrible, just try to be excited. And there's so much positive you can take away from it. If you go into this thing and things don't go well, there is so much value in the community and in losing if you're willing to find it.
Yeah, I think that stems back to like your mindset going into the tournament rather than being like, hey, I'm going to win this whole thing.
Right.
I think we've said this a couple times, to make sure you go in with like, hey, I'm going in to have fun. And if I win, cool. And if I lose, cool. Mm-hmm. G, do you have anything you learned from specifically from the loss?
Yes. So this is going to be stuff of good winners, I guess. So I'd be on losing ends, which is fine. I have nothing against losing. But
Giacomo,
what
you played Space Marines in 9th edition. I understand that you like to lose sometimes.
Losing hard is great. And in
run.
But no, that's a good point though, because this sort of is a little different from 40K to Kill Team. Mm-hmm. So a lot of winners, my opponents who would win, always had like the grace to tell me things that they are going to be able to do, And so, you lose, but you now know that they could do this thing, and you learn to tell people to do that. You can do this thing, and sharing information is really nice. So, I noticed it yesterday when I usually meet up with some other players just to play, casually. They were just doing that before the game started, telling each other what things they could do so that no one got gotcha'd. And it just was like, well, it's translating. It's coming out here, man. And that's signs of people who win with grace, who lose with grace, who are willing to take good habits from those sorts of players and pass it on to the community.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's super important. Is there anything that you guys like dislike coming from somebody that you've either beaten or that have won? Like anything that turns you off? Like for me,
I got one.
Yeah, I know you do. Nothing's turned me off more than like somebody who just sits there and just blames their dice. And that's the reason why they lost. It wasn't because of them. Or, I mean, as a tournament organizer, it's somebody who sits there and just blames the terrain. But
Dakotah, I'm right here. Don't talk about me like that.
But I understand that can be a factor. So I take everything with a grain of salt. But like, and sometimes
blaming the terrain, that would be lame.
That's what I. Yeah. I mean, I think that terrain complaints are extremely valid usually. So like if somebody had a bad time on your terrain, it's really important to like take that feedback. But I feel like other tournament organizers don't care as much, and I think that's like shown in a lot of things by how much effort tournament organizers put out. For instance, tournament organizers that don't put out player packs if you're not going to put out a player pack, at least put a player pack out the day of, so that people can go up and make sure that the terrain is in the correct place. Because throughout like 4 rounds, 3 rounds, 6 rounds, whatever it is, terrain gets bumped all over the place. Nova, for instance, no player pack by game 7.
It decided the final round.
Yeah, that too. But by game 7, there was an Octarius building in my deployment zone. So I deployed on the building, and then we had to get the TO to come over, and he's like, that's not supposed to be there. And I was like, oh, well, it was. So can you please place it in the right position so that we can redeploy? You know, I think that like having a established terrain pack is important because players can go out and make sure things are in the correct place that the TO wants it to do. And it shows that a TO put out their general effort. But I'm sidetracking. I'm ranting. I apologize.
That's all right.
Going back to it, for me, nothing is worse than when a player just sits there and blames their dice. And like, yes, sometimes that does happen. Sometimes it is the dice. Sometimes it is because you lost the initiative roll. Sometimes it is because of this. But like, ultimately, you could have moved a model in a different spot. You could have done this. Like, even if it was the dice, don't take it away from your opponent when they win, right? Like, they won, celebrate them. And I think that is super important because like when Nick beat me, I didn't blame shit. He won the golden ticket because he beat me. And I was like, fuck yeah, let's fucking go. Like, celebrate rather than being negative. How about you guys? You guys have any pet peeves on it?
So it was at Worlds. That was one of the, this whole thing started because I talked about the value of losing. Like, genuinely, I liked to stay balanced. Like, after I won KTO, several people in the local community jokingly called me the best in the world, and it really bothered me. I hated it. Like, I don't like this idea of being like, I want to have fun games. I want to enjoy it. I don't. That
weekend, you might have been the best in the world. Just saying.
Yeah, that one tournament. And if we reran it again, I wouldn't have won. Like, if we ran that tournament 5 times in a row, we'd probably have 5 different winners. But I really don't like that kind of stigma. I am really good with losing games. Like, sometimes it's hard. It can be hard, right? That's fine. But like, I feel like I'm okay with the concept. There was one game I lost at Worlds. Don't worry, Ryan, it was not you. That was a fun game.
We can say this shit. It's fine.
So that's who it is.
The only thing I'm pissed about is you didn't dress up. Like,
oh, you're right. No, you know what? You're completely right.
That made me sad. Like, it made me cry a little bit on the inside. Quick side note, we're going to deviate for a little bit because I love rabbit trails. I think I'm part rabbit. Here we go. So the reason, like, if you haven't seen me in a tournament, I dress a little much, like a little bit much. And I enjoy the shit out of it. And one of the inspirations, the reason I do, is Orion.
Ooh.
I remember last year at LVO, I saw Orion with like a sports coat and a cool little hat. I call it a golfer hat. I think there's a real name for it, but I call it a golfer hat.
Yeah, apparently he was wearing a suit that I couldn't see the color of, so I thought it was black, and apparently
it was mauve.
Yeah,
it was
mauve. Yeah, that's right. But it wasn't a suit. It was like a cool sports coat. He looked like a journalist who was like on like not on the job, but just like fucking being like classy and educated. I don't know.
And over here,
it looked cool.
I mean, it was a suit. It was
a suit. Okay, but it looked like it wasn't like a formal. Like, you weren't going to like prom. But
it wasn't like a tuxedo. Yeah.
Right. But it was dressy, it was classy, and I was like, this motherfucker, he's got class. Holy shit. It was so cool. And everyone, all of us losers were out there in like t-shirt and jeans and like sports jerseys, and we're like, we're basketball, but we aren't tall. We don't play basketball. We don't got hops. None of that. We're a fucking chess team with dice. That's all we are. But I saw Orion, I'm like, that's class. That's so fucking cool. And I was like, I want more of that in my life. So it's kind of morphed, and it keeps morphing. I keep adding to it. But like, I enjoy dressing nice at events because of Orion. And then I played Orion, and I show up with my white sports coat and like my vest, like all my shit. And I was like, hey, Orion. It was like jeans and a t-shirt. I'm like, you just shit on my life. Like,
whoa, hold on. It wasn't jeans and a t-shirt.
It was almost.
No, it was a button-down long sleeve shirt that was reasonably expensive, and it was dress pants, and I was still wearing dress shoes. I just didn't have a full suit on.
So you agree you were a bum. Like,
And I had a Gatsby hat on.
Okay, no, it was cool. It was cool. But it wasn't like, it wasn't Orion. Anyways, I love you. It was fine. It was fine.
No, you bring up a good point. Here was the thing you're missing here. I didn't bring a checked bag. I literally just brought carry-on. And
that's so funny. I brought
fit
2 bags.
2 suits in that carry-on.
That's true. I brought 2 bags, and they were literally just full of different outfits. Which we're going to rabbit trail again. Here we go. I met Orion before the first game, the first day, and he made this comment. He's like, "Hey, Jimmy, every time I see you, you look different." And it was fantastic because I already knew I was going to go upstairs and change for the actual event. And I'm like, this is great. He's going to see me in 5 minutes. I'm going to be wearing a different outfit. But you're right. I brought 2 bags intentionally. Every single time I walked into that event, I changed my outfit.
That shit was throwing me through a loop. And then Shane did the same thing. And I was like, I don't know what's real anymore. We're playing 5 days of Kill Team. Everyone looks different. This is not real.
It was
4-hour rounds.
It was
maybe they weren't 4-hour rounds. We don't know anymore.
Yeah. Who even knows? Is up, down, left, right? We don't know. It was wet, dry. It was fantastic. Okay, so all fashion attire now set aside. We're done with the Vogue section of squad games.
Ooh, very nice.
So at Worlds, not Orion, the game with Orion, I lost. It was wonderful. I loved it, despite his lack of fucking suit. But it was fantastic. But no, there was one game I played, and the matchup was terrible. And I brought Breachers, and I was going into a team that it was just not a good matchup from the start. And I lost, and I tried my best. I tried to do some risky moves to try to, I brought the Geist Skull for some blast and for some stun just to try. And it was really stacked against me. And when the game was over, this guy is like, "Hey, let me tell you what you did wrong here." And I think he probably had the best of intentions, but it really came across as kind of condescending. And it really, the whole tone was like this idea of really, this was anyone's game. And let me explain why you lost it. And it really didn't give credit to the imbalance in the teams in that format.
You weren't the only one with that complaint about that player. So
yeah, no, I feel like, and by the way, I'm glad he won. He played well. There's no question. He played well. He brought a very strong team that did very well in that setup and format, and he won the whole thing. And I'm happy for him. But I feel like when you win, I think you still have to acknowledge this team was very strong for this format, and just there should be some acknowledgement of all that. But yeah.
I think being a sore winner or not recognizing when someone is at their most vulnerable. When you lose a game, typically you're really vulnerable as a player, and the next thing that you say to that player could leave a lasting imprint. It could force them out of the scene. For instance, there's multiple people from the first year of LVO that complained about one particular player. 2 of them have left Kill Team completely after that event, and it was because of their interactions with that player. So when you win events, right? Or when you not events, but when you win, it's really important to make sure that you're also a gracious winner, because again,
it's crucial. Yeah.
You can leave such an impression, whether it be negative or positive. And I think that's something that's also not talked about enough.
I guess that's really big thing is, if you just got the win, do you also need to get the emotional win of hey, I just want to let you know I ate your fucking soul.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's delicious. You already got the win. Be gracious.
Well, if I do beat an opponent, sometimes I'll be like, "Hey, would you like any tips or helpful things on, especially if there's a big disparity and I know the team they're playing well, hey, would you like some tips in the future, so you can improve your game or stuff like that." I'm never just "Hey, you did this wrong."
Well, dude, we talked,
you should feel bad about it. But
yeah, we talked after our game, and you said "Hey, I would have done this or this differently," and I was like, "Yeah, I totally get that." I was kind of playing more emotional. A, I was tilted after the previous game that I just mentioned, and B, it was such a strong unbalance. I was trying to take high risk, high rewards things, and they just totally didn't work out. But like we talked it out after about like, hey, here's some thoughts. And it was totally not condescending or disrespectful. It was absolute like you have a very good ability to convey ideas without it being condescending. So I think you do that very well.
I think most people do it well. For instance, I think after the first event that I met Jimmy, I played one of his sons. I played both of his sons, beat both of his sons, and then Daddy Bear came in to stop me.
I tied you, so I like came in to tickle you. I don't know.
but after my game with Jeshua, his son, I was like, "Hey, do you want any tips?" He said, "Sure," and I gave him some of my feedback, and then he told my wife, he's like, "Oh yeah, this last guy I played like gave me a bunch of advice I didn't really want," and like that's something that I felt mortified about, right? So like I came in the next day, I tried to give him a bunch of free stuff and stuff that I made because that's the last thing that I would want somebody to feel with me trying to provide some kind of feedback. So, I mean, some people might not know that they might be like too much, or feel or give that overconfidence era. So I think that it's important to try to be able to read your opponent. And while it may not be intentional, sometimes it's better just to like shake hands and walk away, rather than offer any kind of anything. But sometimes if your opponent is like willing to get feedback or is like eager to know, then it's good to talk to them,
Mm-hmm.
So
Totally. By the way, conversely, just to throw this out there, one of my favorite losses for who handled a victory against me was actually Liam from Australia. So the other Australian player.
Mm-hmm. I've heard great things about Liam.
Liam is such a cool guy. By the way, Alexa was super nice during the game. Like there was not a single thing he said that was rude. Like he played really solid. I just found the interaction at the end a little condescending. Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to like if we played again, I'd have the best hopes and intentions. I really hope if he hears this, he doesn't take this as like shots fired and like we're mortal enemies now. It was a little rough to deal with. Liam, after the game, start of turn 3. I was way up. It was like 8-2 on primaries, and I had like 3 of my 6 secondaries. I was doing fantastic. I just needed like one of like 8 things to go right for me to win, and every single thing fell apart. And it was so cool as we talked it out. Like the game ended, he came back, he won by a single point, and just super gracious, super cool the whole time. And we just talked it out. Really nice guy. So like you can like, it was really cool that like that was probably one of the best experiences of like it was so heartbreaking to lose when you just watched every single thing fall apart. And he was like in it with me. Like as I would roll, be like, hey, you just need to win one of the 2 initiatives or like these dice rolls that come in or these different things. And it was like, oh my gosh, just watching one thing after another just collapse. He was like invested with me as it was happening. And was acknowledging like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened or whatever. It was super cool. And so I don't know. It was Australia has the highs and the lows, all of it together. There we go. Well, it's all out there. I think the entire Southern Hemisphere is going to hate me now after this podcast. I've already pissed off the East Coast. Let's go for the Southern Hemisphere too. The world shall hate me.
The villain of Kill Team.
Yeah.
I think that
I will fight you all.
I think that it's important to like, for instance, one of my worst games ever that I've ever played, right? Like I played somebody and I thoroughly disliked the experience. I played them again. I gave them the benefit of the doubt and I had a much better experience the second time around. And like, that also shows like, hey, players can also grow. And it's not like, it's not necessarily like a bad thing to get feedback, right? Like critical feedback can be hard for some people to take, but I don't think that it's
essential. It's essential to grow.
Yeah, it's essential. So I also think that like if you do have a bad time against somebody, I think that it's also partially on you to go up and tell them, you know what I mean? So I think that because I can guarantee you that most people don't want to be viewed negatively, right? Like I've seen,
except for Jimmy, apparently.
Practically,
I love it. Bring it on. Oh, sorry.
practically any and every interaction at tournaments other than a physical fight yet. I'm sure we'll get there one day. Got pretty close at the AVTT, number one. But, outside of that, there's, we've seen the lows and the highs of people, and you've seen some people who get negative comments, and then, I bring it up to them subtly. I'll be like, hey man, this person doesn't like your dice, and so that person then goes out and buys casino dice, or you go up to somebody and be like, hey, you're being accused of cheating. Can you not? And then they cheat again, and then you ban them. There's a multitude of things. I mean, I think all of us can say cheating is the worst way to win a game, but that's besides the point. Yeah. Orion, do you have anything that you dislike from winners?
I don't know, popping the champagne and just, going hog wild, I guess. I don't know, man. If you
Ryan, I literally popped Shane and LVO. I feel like this is shots fired against me.
Well, I didn't see that, but yeah, no. It goes against you.
Jimmy, you did call out a couple plasma spammers before LVO.
You know what? Yeah, here's my gripe.
There we go. Let's fight. Let's do it.
My gripe is shit ass tier lists where people don't know a hole from the ground from their ass.
But all I know
about compendium players.
If you bring Tyrannus to LVO, I hope you fucking die. Top 8 don't mean shit. Top 5, that's what matters.
Top 5? Oh man.
Yeah. Top 8. He thinks he's cool.
He is cool. Fuck.
Let's fight, Jeremy. Dude, it was so funny. I met him during the award ceremony. We were talking beforehand. He was like, "Jimmy, what the fuck, man?" I'm like I'm sorry, bro. It wasn't serious.
You lit a fire under those boys' ass so hard.
So therefore, I take credit for their top 8. Well, thank you. I got 2 top 8s, me and fucking Jeremy. We both.
Greenskin's got 15th, I believe, as well. So I mean,
I get that one too. That's mine. I'm sorry. I can't even keep it up. Oh, God. God. I talked to Nick. I think so highly of Nick. Nick's such a great guy. He is genuinely such a kind person and like a super competitive player. Like, he's so good and so nice and chill. And I talked so much shit about him on that podcast. And he came up to me and was like, Jimmy, what the fuck, man? I'm like, I don't know. I was drinking. I don't know. Like, give me a break, man. But yeah.
Whenever Jimmy's on our podcast, he's going to bring a little bit of that is it Jack in the Box? What is the
Jack in the Box?
The spicy. He's going to bring a little bit of that spice.
Popeyes, chicken
Popeyes
spice.
Popeyes spice. Jimmy.
Like,
Popeyes
maybe it's delicious. Maybe
Kimmy jelly.
We don't know.
Kimmy jelly.
I'll bring that Kimmy jelly, baby. Oh yeah, you know it. Oh boy.
Speaking of some of those wins and stuff like that, there's something interesting. So there's a really interesting statistic. Plasma Spam as a team has the second most wins this data slate with 65. Only Knott's Kill Team, I don't know who they are beating you guys with 72. But Plasma
That'll
Spam
change this weekend. That's fine.
Plasma Spam currently, as of recording this podcast, has a 56% win rate. Kel Team has 40 wins in the third place with a 49% win rate. Hashtags needs the buff. But also, placings wise, Plasma Spam also has the most placings in the top 10% of tournaments this data slate. So closely followed behind is the old ones. So that's pretty cool. There's a lot of.
Here's the deal. Our team philosophy is just win the big things and just let all the losers have all the other wins. Like, do you want to have the most wins, the highest win percentage? That's great. That's all you. That's our philosophy. So we want you to feel good about yourself, and we'll just take the fucking most points. So, or third most points in the world. That's all. That's our philosophy. Go ahead, Orion. Your turn.
Did you develop that philosophy before or after Worlds?
Everyone's
Worlds doesn't
fighting
count.
here.
I don't even think anyone knows that happened. I don't even know. That's rude, and I'm mad.
That was for Jeremy. That was for Jeremy.
Dang, he came to avenge you.
Damn it.
Justice for Jeremy.
Justice for Jeremy.
Can Justice for Jeremy be a hashtag? Can we start that?
I think we need to make a shirt that says Squad Games Podcast Justice for Jeremy and then have like 2 little scything talons on it, you know?
Oh my God. Can that be the motto for 2024?
Of course.
Or, by the way, Justice for Nick might be more apropos. That might be more reasonable. Like, not only did I talk shit about Nick, a Kel team player took him out in the final round. It's fucking brutal. Like, I felt so bad when I found out, like, damn it. Like, I was really hoping he would do really well so we could joke about how much shit I talked about him. And then when Kel team took him out, like, oh, fuck. Like, anyways, it took the fun out of it. So, but I won't take it back. We still won, bitches. So there's that.
So we're going to wrap this one up here, fellas. Thank you for talking sportsmanship with us, and how to win gracefully, lose gracefully. And of course, if you guys want to talk shit about Kimmy Jelly because he insulted anyone that you know or love, including Jeremy, feel free to at him with in our Discord with at Jelly Time. We made that his specific.
No.
His specific.
Oh God.
Does it work?
It does.
It does work.
It does.
This is a manual.
Hold on.
I'm doing the same thing.
Wait. Hold on.
Everyone just get into the Discord.
Oh my
Ryan,
God.
stop being so excited.
Everyone just get into the Discord and just at Jimmy Kelly or Kimmy Jelly. And the other great thing is that
we were friends, Dakotah.
Kimmy. His name on our Discord is Kimmy Jelly, the winner of Gel Team Open 2023. So it's just at Jelly Time, or no, sorry, at you Jelly.
Ryan, you just
Jelly.
you son of a bitch, you just did it. Okay, you jelly. Okay,
So Jimmy, you were upset that you're letting your son use your Discord and have all his friends just spamming you all day. Well,
yeah,
you might have to leave the Squad Games Discord.
Yeah, I might. After that bald man from Britain, he made his little slip of the tongue, little as they do in merry old England. He had a slip of the tongue. He called me Kimmy Jelly, and dear sweet baby Jesus, the Discord did not quit for days. People wrote poems. Dakotah, they wrote poems.
They
Epic
did.
ballads,
Really?
if you will.
Holy shit.
Yes. Some of the people are not native English speakers, and they wrote better poems than I can write. Do you know how much that humiliates me?
Thumbs down.
Oh, that's a thumbs down moment for you.
That's a thumbs down moment. It is. I only speak this language and I barely speak it. Honestly, I barely grasp it. And there's people that are like, I know 3 languages and then I learned English and I wrote in a ballad about Kimmy Jelly. I'm like, I feel like garbage. Like, you make me feel so small. And they did it so well. They were so good. I want to turn them into purity seals. So I told you about this. I want to make purity seals of the ballads of Kimmy Jelly. Just because I hate them, but they're so good. They're so good. Oh my gosh, I hate it so much. Okay. Anyways, no one do the shit they're talking about. Just don't do that shit. It's really annoying.
Everyone do it. All right.
Don't do it.
So we're going to wrap this one here. Is there anything that you guys want to shout out? And then we'll record the next podcast right after this one.
Oh, I specifically have one shout out.
Okay.
Don't be Kimmy Jelly. Don't do that.
This is not the Jelly Master himself. No, this was.
I hate you so much.
This comes from Dan. It was, give me a shout out. Tell Dakotah I love him and miss him. Tell him every time he walks by, I hear "There Goes My Hero" by the Foo Fighters playing in my head.
That's so cool. I like that.
I can't tell you how much I love Dan and his stoicism. I think I've told this to Orion in private, but I will say it here in the open, and hopefully Dan listens to this. Dan, it graces me with so much pleasure when I'm able to make you laugh and I see a smile on that stoic face. That man makes my heart jump for joy. I appreciate you.
Oh,
And I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna listen to "You Are My Hero" right after this. Giacomo, I don't know if we could get DMCA.
No, we absolutely will. We are not. We cannot do that.
Yeah. I don't give a shit about copyright. Play the damn song.
Can
Give
we
me
find
I don't
like
care.
Can we put like a
Right.
pirated version here? You know, like just like the closeout to it.
Probably, I think
Play
I
a
think
parody
I'll
to
make
it.
that
Who gives a shit? Play it.
Yeah, I know, right?
Consequences be damned.
Consequences be damned.
don't listen to the drunken jelly man. All right, like,
Hey, wait a minute.
maybe we have some
Wait a
wisdom.
minute. I think the Drunken Jelly Man makes some great points. You should definitely listen to him. Or maybe not. Probably not. Actually, no one listened to the Drunken Jelly Man. Orion speaks truth. Don't do that.
This is fun.
Yeah. How about you, G? You got anything to shout out?
Of course I do. If you want to join the conversation, you can find us on Discord. Our link is in the show notes. You can find me on Instagram at wargaming_studios. I'm working on Hearthkin right now. I'm having a lot of fun with that. I want to shout out our patrons. They do a lot for us behind the scenes. They do a lot for us up front in the scenes. And you know what? They get some extra content, little extra goodies every now and then. So if you're looking to support us in a more personal way, you can do so. Link is in the description for the Patreon. And we have our affiliates through Frontline Gaming. So if you're going to be going to the Rocky Mountain Open, that's coming up soon, whether you're doing Warhammer 40K or some of their other events out there, feel free to use our link in the description to buy your tickets. Or if you want to buy any of their model kits they sell on their website, every little bit helps us and costs no additional to you guys. And we really appreciate that.
All right. If you want to find me, you can find me at hashtag OrionDressesLikeAHobo.com.
I am writing a haiku right now about this.
God damn you, Orion. Don't do it. There's been too many ballads. No more.
Wash away.
Can I get?
I'm not even going to do it. I'm going to have ChatGPT do it.
I was about to do the same thing. Literally. Make a haiku.
Don't you finish that thought,
about-
Dakotah. Don't you do it. Look, here's the thing. Thumbs downs rattle me. When people come up with epic ballads about Kimmy Jelly, I can't process it. It's too much. I can't process that kind of emotional damage. You guys got to stop. I'm only human. I'm only human. I've reached my limits, guys. We got to stop.
Listen, man, you've been firing all the shots. You know, it's got to come back at some point.
All right, look. Shots can be fired one way. That's how barrels work. We got to stop with this balance and this for that. Sometimes some people like to be an asshole, and we got to let them live. I'm a peacock. You got to let me fly. Look, just let me be who I am and stop writing ballads about me. That's all I'm saying. That's it.
All right. So I'm gonna do a shout out. I'm gonna shout out our patrons, and I'm gonna shout out our YouTube channel. Keep an eye out for that because I'm gonna shout out a couple more things. AK Interactive is sending us paint for our YouTube channel, and I reached out to Vallejo. And a bunch of other paint companies, and we're still waiting to hear back from a couple of them. But it's going to be pretty fun, so keep an eye out for that. We'll definitely keep you up to date here on the podcast. But also, I'm going to read a haiku now. Dice and Jelly Dance, Kill Team Tactics, Unfold Suite, Kimmy's Master Stroke. That's ChatGPT's haiku.
What does that sound so sexual? What's going on?
Yeah, right? Like I thought it was going to end with feet.
Kimmy's Master Stroke.
It's so bad. That's going to get me on a government watch list, Dakotah. Please don't do that.
Master Stroke-san.
Can that be his name change? You know, winner of Master Stroke.
Master Stroke Open
No! Stop
2023.
it.
All right. Sorry. Orion, Jimmy, do you have anything?
Nah, I got nothing.
All right, that's fair.
I got nothing.
That's fair.
We're good. It's
Not
fine.
like your favorite jelly brand. Nothing.
Welch's. Honestly,
All right.
Church Welch's. It's the best jelly for all of your Kimmy jelly needs. Welch's.
It's not
Thank you.
sponsored.
Not sponsored.
The Squad Games podcast is a production of Squad Games Entertainment. For more information on Squad Games, please visit our website at lestersworkshop.com/squad-games.